The morning sunlight poured weakly through the glass walls of the Sterling Tech headquarters, touching every corner of the pristine lobby with an almost mocking glow. Inside, dozens of employees rushed to their desks, carrying coffee cups and unread dreams. But among them was one woman whose steps were slower, heavier, each one weighted with dread. Her name was Emily Carter, 28 years old, quiet, hardworking, and known for never missing a deadline. Yet that morning, her hands trembled as she clutched the elevator rail, her eyes red from a night of crying. She wasn't just tired, she was terrified. She had just learned that her department was under review and the company was planning to downsize. The whispers in the hallway were ruthless. 2 people were about to be fired by the end of the week. Emily had been working late hours despite her morning sickness, trying to hide the truth growing inside her belly. But secrets never stay buried for long, especially in offices where competition lives in every corner. As the elevator doors opened, Emily took a deep breath and walked toward her desk, praying under her breath that she could keep her job. Because if she lost it now, she had no idea how she'd pay rent, afford food, or prepare for the tiny heartbeat depending on her. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of understanding, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel Kindness Stories to support more real, emotional stories like this one. Emily's boss, Nathan Hale, was a man known for being sharp, demanding, and almost painfully professional. A self-made CEO who had built the company from the ground up, Nathan had little patience for excuses. His world was built on discipline and deadlines, not emotions. So when he called Emily into his office that morning, she felt her knees weaken. Her palms were damp. The room was too bright, too silent. Nathan didn't even look up at first. He was reviewing a report on his tablet, his brow furrowed. "Emily," he finally said, his tone calm but distant, "you've been one of our most consistent employees. But lately your performance has dropped. You've missed 2 reports, left early twice, and your last project came in with errors. That's not like you." His words pierced her heart. Emily opened her mouth, but the lump in her throat made it hard to speak. She wanted to explain. She wanted to say that her body had been exhausted, that her nights had turned into restless hours of nausea and worry, that she was doing her best while her world was falling apart. But how could she tell him without sounding weak, without losing everything? She tried to hold it in, but when Nathan mentioned the possibility of layoffs, something inside her broke. Her voice came out shaking, trembling with fear and desperation. "Please don't fire me, sir. I'm pregnant." The room went silent. Nathan froze, his expression unreadable. Emily immediately regretted it, covering her mouth as tears filled her eyes. She hadn't planned to say it, not like this. Not in a glass office where her secret could echo. She whispered again, her voice cracking. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say it like that. I can't lose this job. I have no one else." Nathan slowly set his tablet down, his expression shifting from shock to something softer, more human. He looked at her for the first time, really looked at her. At the fear in her eyes, the exhaustion etched into her face. He saw the same desperation he once saw in the mirror years ago, when his own wife had been pregnant, and he was fighting to build a life for them. But that life had been stolen too soon. His wife and unborn child had died in an accident 6 years ago. Since then, Nathan had built walls around his heart so thick that even empathy struggled to get through. But in that moment, those walls cracked. He stood up, walked around the desk, and handed her a chair. Emily tried to speak, but he gently raised a hand. "Sit down, Emily," he said quietly. His tone was no longer that of a boss, but of a man trying to remember what compassion felt like. She sat, her body trembling, tears streaming down her cheeks as she whispered apologies. Nathan asked nothing at first. He just watched her, silently replaying her words in his mind. Pregnant, alone, afraid. It was too familiar, too haunting. After a few long minutes, he finally asked, "Where's the father?" Emily looked away. "He left when he found out," she said softly. "Said he wasn't ready to be a dad. I've been trying to manage everything since then, working extra hours, saving every penny, hiding it because I was scared of losing this job." But I can't anymore. Her voice broke again. Nathan's throat tightened. There were 100 things he wanted to say. Practical, professional things. But none of them felt right. Instead, he asked her the only question that came to mind. Do you have any support? Family? Emily shook her head. My parents passed away when I was 19. I've been on my own since then. Nathan leaned back, his chest heavy. For years, he had kept himself detached from his employees, refusing to get involved in their personal lives. But as he watched Emily wipe her tears with shaking hands, something inside him refused to stay silent. That day, he didn't fire her. Instead, he told her to take the rest of the week off. When Emily left the office, she could barely walk straight from the mix of relief and confusion. She didn't know why he'd changed his mind, but deep down, she felt something had shifted, something bigger than mercy. In the following weeks, Nathan kept a quiet eye on her. He noticed how she stayed late, double-checking her work, skipping lunch to meet deadlines. Her resilience reminded him of his late wife, who had been the same, brave, hardworking, and endlessly kind even when life was cruel. One afternoon, when Emily fainted in the office due to exhaustion, Nathan rushed her to the hospital himself. He waited in the hallway, pacing like a nervous father, until the doctor told him she was fine, but needed rest and better nutrition. The doctor's words hit Nathan like a hammer. She's been overworking herself, and stress could harm the baby. That night, Nathan couldn't sleep. He thought about how his company had turned into a machine, efficient, profitable, but heartless. He thought about how many people like Emily must have walked out of his doors over the years, broken and afraid. The realization hurt. The next morning, he called an emergency meeting, not for layoffs, but for change. He announced a new policy, extended maternity leave, healthcare benefits for expecting mothers, and flexible schedules for single parents. The staff was stunned, but no one was more shocked than Emily, who stood at the back, her eyes wide with disbelief. After the meeting, Nathan approached her quietly and said, "You taught me something, Emily. This company needed a heart again." From that day, everything changed. Emily worked closely with Nathan, helping design programs for working mothers. Slowly, she became more confident, smiling more often, laughing even. Nathan found himself drawn to her sincerity, not romantically at first, but in admiration for her strength. She reminded him that compassion could rebuild what ambition had destroyed. Months passed, and when Emily's baby shower was organized by her colleagues, Nathan attended. He stood there, surrounded by balloons and laughter, watching as Emily's eyes sparkled with gratitude. She approached him at the end, holding a small white box. Inside was a tiny pair of baby shoes. "I wanted to thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "You didn't just save my job. You saved my hope." Nathan felt his eyes sting. For years, he had built his life around loss, convinced that love and kindness only led to pain. But Emily and her unborn child had shown him something different, something worth living for again. When Emily finally gave birth to a healthy baby girl, she named her Grace, because as she said, "That's what saved me." Nathan visited the hospital, holding the baby gently in his arms, feeling tears fall freely for the first time in years. In that quiet moment, surrounded by soft cries and the scent of new life, he whispered to the little girl, "You've changed more than you'll ever know." Emily returned to work months later, stronger, happier, and determined to give back. Nathan promoted her to team lead, and her story spread through the office like light through dark corridors. The company had a new soul, and every employee felt it. Years later, when Grace was 5, she often ran through the office halls, giggling as Nathan chased her around like a grandfather figure. The man who once lived behind glass walls now smiled more than he frowned. And Emily, no longer the frightened woman who once begged for mercy, stood proudly beside him, a symbol of resilience, love, and second chances. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness Stories to keep spreading love and compassion in a world that needs it. And before we end, tell us in the comments below, do you believe one act of kindness can truly change someone's life forever? Because for Emily and Nathan, it did. It changed everything.